Hey, what is up ladies and gentlemen, I am Tiana here once again, and I'm still the frog type of Tiana here, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos of course. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more of Let's Play of Kirby's Adventure Wii, aka Kirby's Return to Dreamland for North America for the Nintendo Wii. So, last time we have managed to able to gone through World 2, which is specifically Raisin Ruins, and also we managed to able to restore the right wing by the forms of Lord Starcutter. And today, we're about to be continuing things on and move on to World 3, which appears to be Onion Ocean. So even then, as to be expected, the letter begins with is this time around is going to be, well, specifically O. Because, you know, we've already got C, and we've got R, now we've got O. So even then, what else will be up next? Could it be S or something? To be more accurately, just to make it a little bit more of a cross or something? I don't know, we'll find out likely until next Tuesday, and especially noticeable for next Thursday, potentially. So, but God knows we're able to actually just make it how long this will take, but either way though, we'll might as well find out by that time. So, yeah, obviously today's day, if you couldn't tell already, is that today's day is the forms of the 9th of January today. And yes, the Pokemon Direct has been up recently today, although I'll talk more about it more on that later, but for now, we have the returning Kirby ability ever since during the past few games basically, and that appears to be by the forms of Ice Kirby, which once again, this allows you to able to freeze enemies all in place, so that way you can able to actually transform those those enemies into ice projectiles themselves. And also, that we actually come across into ourselves these fire blocks, which, yes, they behave exactly like how it did in the water copy ability, because of how the fact that you can also just manage to get rid of, the fire blocks, if you will, and, except the fact that we're actually going to be able to, well, deal out with the ice powers, just like what Elsa used to do from Frozen and Frozen 2. So, but anyway though, enough about that, so let's go ahead and head on to the forms of, the next few sections, and, once again we need to find, 3 energy spheres and all that stuff, and here's another returning ability that I've not actually shown you guys about this. That appears to be by the forms of the Paracel ability, which, just like how it did ever since in Kirby's Adventures, the fact that if you go onto this highest drop, segment, you can able to actually just, fly altitude for a few seconds notice, and then once you're able to actually press the directional pad down, you can just simply cancel out the actual Paracel gliding. So even then though, definitely really helps you throughout it though, especially you really don't want to get hit by most of the other enemies or objects or anything like that, or obstacles, whatever. So, but either way though, that's as far from the case regrettably. So, and in here, we actually come across into ourselves in these little blue collective stars, where unlike any other stars, as you can see, that we got ourselves about 82 star points in total, which that actually represents that the blue stars that we actually did manage to get, got one of them, that actually gives you about 30 points, which, potentially speaking, it actually really helps us out, because even then, that, once again, as you can clearly see, that my life's counter still resets, which I think that usually happens most of the time, every time whenever I go into the next new videos, specifically for approaching on to the next few worlds worth noting for. But either way, there's not much else we can able to just, discuss upon on something. So, anyway though, so let's go ahead and talk about the forms of the most recent Direct, or in this case for this matter, the Pokemon Direct that has been happening during the likes of it today recently. And I'm gonna say, I'm just a little bit disappointed. Well, not necessarily in a horrible way, but, still I'm not a huge Pokemon fanatic still. But at least I did have some good time with other games though, like Pokemon Snap is usually one of my all-time favorite games on the N64 still. And especially noticeable with the good time on the Pokepark series, which, for whatever reason, they never seemed able to continue the Pokepark series ever since in the Wii era, because they only got 2 games for Pokepark series, and that's all there is to it. I think the only reason being for that is because, well, I'm pretty sure that the selling points, I'm not exactly sure if that's something to do with the actual selling points or something, but either way though, that I digress. So anyways, let's get into the actual announcements before you're able to actually get on to the actual ranting and all that stuff. Well, I normally do not like ranting and stuff, but before I get into that actually, from this first energy sphere on this level right here, I recommend you able to get yourselves a whip ability, and in that way, you can able to actually bust out this bomb block. Now, once you've done so already, hit onto this little hidden area, which basically the entire objective is pretty simple. You just have to take a key all the way up to that specific that specific locked gate, and that's pretty much about it, and self-explanatory for the most part. And then basically you have to activate those two switches and to able to actually just to jump from platform to platform, and in that way you can able to actually guarantee you can get yourselves the first energy sphere no problem. So I really do like the actual music theme in the background right there. It appears to be by the forms of the actual brought back music from the likes of well, I would say in Kirby's Dream Land 2, where you're able to find kind of fish that you can able to actually just to team up with him on that particular title, which is pretty cool though, especially because it's all related to beach and all that stuff. And here we actually come across into ourselves the new the super ability, as you can see right there, which appears to be by the forms of the snow ball. And it's pretty cool though, because just like the form, it kind of reminds me of Rock Mario from Super Mario Galaxy 2, except the noticeable difference is that we're not going to be taking control of the nunchuck or anything like that. So basically, every time you actually press the 1 button or try to activate that specific super copy ability, and that way you can able to actually turn it into a snowball. And then while you're at it, you have to shake the Wii remote up and down, so that way you can able to actually build up with your snowball, and then just simply have some nice little fun thrill ride with that specific snowball in mind. So, and the reason being for this, because we need to get ourselves that ability to begin with, because yet again with that specific portal dimension that we need to able to actually enter in. So no, it's not too far though, especially it's not that complicated either, so it's just naturally we have to destroy the actual part about the actual sandcastle, so. But overall it's not too bad though, it's just not that difficult to able to obtain that too, so. And from here and onwards now is the fact that we need to avoid the actual shifting wall, or should I say, shifting ceiling from above. So naturally speaking, we can't afford to get crushed or anything like that, so naturally speaking we need to do the usual same bits and bobs, just like the forms of how it does it from those previous levels for sure. So relatively speaking, that all in all comes together. So, and if you couldn't tell by the actual time length of this specifically for this episode in particular, every once in a while though is the fact that in the future worlds throughout the game, specifically World 4 and World 5 and probably the future worlds here and there as well, some of these levels might actually go a little bit longer throughout. So what we're gonna do is the fact that, well, we'll discuss more into that later until next Tuesday potentially, because as a result of this kinds of stuff though, that we're just mainly focusing on the forms of the normal stuff as to be expected. So, but I digress. So let's go ahead and keep on activating those switches, so that way we could able to keep on going down every now and then, as far as I like to say for this point. The best strategy I can think of when it comes to like dealing with those bomb blocks to progress is that if you don't have the actual projectile inside of you, well, I think you probably should suggest to utilize the slide ability, so that way you could, or the slide move ability, so that way you could able to actually just to make everything a little bit quicker for you. So. And now let's go ahead and use the tornado on the forms of Spear Doomer this time, and I think that could be really helpful though, especially because it actually deals a certain amount of damage, as you can see right there, which also, if you manage to able to actually use the tornado to begin with, you know, it's kind of like the same thing for how it does it in Kirby Mouse Attack slash Kirby, well, just Kirby's Mouse Attack slash Kirby Squeed Squad for those who lived in North America, that you can able to be invincible while simply able to actually dodge their attacks and all that stuff. And then from here you get yourselves the final two of those, you know, energy spheres and all that stuff. I do apologize for the actual background noise you'll be hearing. That's because, well, Sonic just managed to able to send me a text and all that stuff to say that, how has the actual day been, which, at this point in time, folks, I'm feeling slightly okay. for the most part though, but it's just that, well, I didn't get that much hypes for it when it comes to the forms of Nintendo Directs, Pokemon Directs recently, because, well, we'll point it out whenever we get on to, I would say whenever we do with the third stage, I'll talk more about it later. But for now, we have ourselves sub-game number 2 is unlocked, which this time we are able to actually play Scope Hunt, or Scope, I can't really remember what that specific sub-game is usually called, but I'll figure out what, oh yeah, Scope Shots, that's what the actual mini-game itself is known as, so, but then again, I will show those off by the sake of the actual Let's Play of this game, so hopefully we can able to show that off, so... Anyways though, so there's not much else I can say, because even then... Oh, actually, remember why I said this before already, for about a few seconds ago, that I was gonna able to explain about the forms of what's new, about the forms of the Pokemon Direct, and during that specific recent day, until whenever I talk about it, and during the forms of the third level, but I decided, nope, I might as well able to get out of the way right now, because, well, it was okay. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking to me though anyway. Although, let's get into the forms of the new thing they actually did manage to announce during the specific Direct. Now there appears to be what else? A new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game has been announced. But not just the forms of the new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, but to be more accurate, another remake. Or, for this matter though, a remake of Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team / Red Rescue Team from both the DS and Game Boy Advance. And I'm just like, I have some mixed feelings with it. I mean, the presentation is a little bit, kind of updated compared to the forms of the DS hardware or anything like that, as well as the Game Boy Advance hardware and all. But, I just don't know why they're able to actually not be bothered to able to make a new sequel for that matter, because, well, at least they did something, when it comes to the sequels though, specifically for Gates to Infinity for the 3DS came out in 2013, and then until 3 years later we got Super Mystery Dungeon, but at least those games are relatively new. Whilst the forms of Mystery Dungeon, you know, Rescue Team DX, as what the game is actually known as at this point, because you know what that is, it's like a combination of both Mystery Dungeon, Blue Rescue Team, and Red Rescue Team, but except it's now being playable on the Nintendo Switch, which, at this point in time, is the fact that, speaking of which actually, is the fact that that particular game released a demo version here and there as well, and I think it also gets its release date here and there as well, potentially, which, then again, I'll point it out during later on though, but for now, let's go ahead and just activate that switch. And by the way, you know with that first energy sphere that we've got, we need to able to get Cutter out, so that way you can able to actually see the actual footage for yourself. And then the second energy sphere is that we have to utilize the spear, so that way you can able to actually just, well, poke the actual switch from the outside, and then that way you can able to entering this room. And from in here, we need to activate all these bomb blocks, so that way we can able to actually get ourselves, well, another energy sphere. So it's not too bad though, until more accurately though, until later on though, in energy sphere number 3. So even then, but then again, we'll discuss more on that later. So anyways, let's go ahead and get ourselves the bomb ability or what have you. Grab some more stars, and yeah, I think that's all comes together. Okay, if you couldn't tell already, this is actually a jump cut for this point, because if you couldn't tell, we still got the exact same amount of lives, but you probably noticed something is a little bit different for you guys, and as well as that, I also got myself my exact same copy ability as from my first previous attempts of this recording. As you can see, I've got a different amount of stars right now, and also you notice my health gauge has actually got a little bit more lower into its halfway point, because from this section here, we actually come across into ourselves kind of like the similar thing as the forms of the Kirby shoe from Super Mario Bros. 3, except, well, we need to able to put up with a lot of timing requirements, because in order to actually get ourselves the third energy sphere on this stage, you have to utilize this particular item until you're able to go to, let's just say in this section here, where you got all sorts of Belton birds or anything like that. and basically you have to deal with the amount of timing jumps with that specific Kuribo boot. And then that way you're gonna have to able to put up with a lot of timing requirements. And sometimes, I will admit though, I swear, I was pressed the 2 button down, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't even time it right. Which, it's not the game's fault or anything like that, it's just that, it's just my timing skills is a little bit, well, too off for my taste. Which, even then though, that's not the actual main nitpicking with this it's just the actual emphasis on... I understand that the 2 button on the Wii remote is actually pretty small in comparison to the A button, which I could appreciate if I was able to actually just realize that I could use the, well, a different kind of controller, but even then though, this might be the only thing that I always intend to have a lot of struggle with. But hopefully by that time into World 4 and probably World 5 potentially, I hope, that we're not going to get that much trouble with. So, but I digress. So let's go ahead and try this again, and hopefully we would able to actually just, well, time our jumps again. So, but believe me while I'm truly saying this actually took me a lot of tries on the first attempt. And luckily though, if you can't be bothered to die right there, well, you can just simply try to able to jump off the actual specific shoe, and then that way you can able to still live due to the forms of swimming on the water. So, definitely one of the hardest parts about the game for me though, because then again, my timing on jumps on specifically with this this particular boot is actually super stingy in my opinion. Well, usually because of how the fact that I know it has been such a long time since I actually did manage to touch this game for quite a long time now. But at least even then though, that I've never actually progressed to this particular stage by my own time whenever I first time I played the game. During the forms of around and during the forms of Christmas Day in 2011, just because we obviously got distracted by other games like Sonic Generations, as well as, well, specifically the Xbox 360 version of Sonic Generations and the 3DS version here and there as well. And same applies for the forms of Mario Kart 7 and Super Mario 3D Land, and also same applies for Rio for the Xbox 360, which you know what that game is all about. It's like a Mario Party clone. But I honestly don't think that game wasn't all that bad, specifically on the Xbox 360 version / the PlayStation 3 version, because I honestly think that the PS3 version as well as the Xbox 360 version were pretty solid. But however though, not the Wii version though, probably because of the, you know, the terrible controls they're able to actually add it in. And also the amount of visuals they actually get on the Wii version of Rio, it feels a little bit less polished in comparison to the forms of how it does it on the superior 360 version, as well as, you know, the PS3 version in general. But that's probably just me anyway though, that's probably just me. So anyways though, the fourth and the final energy sphere on this specific stage, as you can see, that we need to bust out these little blocks by simply able to avoid getting eaten by the forms of that specific eels right there between each sides of the wall. And then if you're trying to manage to able to carefully not get munched or anything like that, well, you can simply able to get yourselves the fourth and the final energy sphere on the end of this particular stage. So, but then again though, I do apologize with the actual jump cuts for that point, just because, well, I just have to able to get this right, because no matter what, how many times for that specific shoe scene, that I always have to spend like, I would say 5 minutes wasted on that specific section, which thankfully that's not the case on this particular recording right now, but it's just for my first attempt of that specific recording, and that was actually my, well, currently you're seeing right now is actually my second attempt for that specific shoe section. And yeah, it took me a lot of tries to able to figure out to deal with the actual timing pattern with that specific shoe in mind. But hopefully I'll try again next time around though, specifically later on though, because I say later on because then again, we'll point it out whenever we get to it at some form or another. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on to stage 3. So even then, let's just go ahead and get ourselves some more stars for extra lives department, if at least we are able to actually get some enough. And hopefully by that time though, that we could able to actually just make things a little bit comfortable for ourselves. So Anyway though, as I was saying by the forms of the first thing they actually did announce in Pokemon Direct recently today. Now, as I mentioned this before, it's the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, which, as I mentioned this earlier, it's more likely a remake of the forms of, well, a combination of both Blue Rescue Team and Red Rescue Team, except, well, it's now built in all in one particular game card. You know, it's kind of like the same thing for how it does it in, well, specifically New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. There you get yourselves New Super Mario Bros. U plus New Super Luigi U all in one particular one game card, which I think that could be also the same applies for the Wii U version's physical version here and there too. But I've never actually owned a double pack physically for myself, probably because I seem to able to go myself New Super Luigi or New Super Mario Bros. U / New Super Luigi U. Well, digital download version of New Super Luigi U specifically, and I managed to able to pick up New Super Mario Bros. U physically back then, so it's nothing that surprising, I don't think, so. But I digress. So, for what I've seen the actual gameplay, and it might actually play out pretty much identically to the forms of how it does it on the previous games for sure, but this time around though, playing on the Nintendo Switch, in this case the new hardware, so. Pretty cool all in all, but I don't know if I can necessarily try to get that game specifically, although, luckily for me, I can able to at least try out the demo out at some point, so hopefully I can able to get some good chance that I can give myself my overall opinions of it. Well, relatively speaking, back in Journey forms of 2009 or something like that, I at least managed to go myself Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team on the Nintendo DS a long time ago. Well, I no longer have it anymore, just because, then again, I never actually played that much of Pokemon games, including, you know, the main games here and there as well. The only time I did have a good time, as I mentioned this before, it was none other than Pokemon Snap, as well as some good times on the forms of Poke Park series. In fact, speaking of which, actually, it's the fact that with Poke Park Wii, Pikachu's Adventure, that particular game, specifically at the moment right now, we're still on 2020, I think that particular game will be out for about, you know, 10 years from now, so even then, God knows if we could potentially try and do with that Let's Play at some point in the future, but obviously not now though, because we're going to be focusing on Kirby, and Mario, and a little bit of Sonic stuff, just a moment right now. And in here, this is where we need to get ourselves the stone copy ability to begin with, and that is because of that energy sphere down there. And because, you know, that particular water current right there was actually pretty strong, so naturally we can't go through it, so we have to utilize the stone ability in order to actually just to bypass through, basically for everything, basically. And as for the second energy sphere, you notice that particular middle section right there, that actually leads us to that specific energy sphere. Well, we need to able to go all the way up, and then try to go on the right, on that specific right switch, right over there. And in that way, you would able to actually let the water current will take you to the forms of what else? The forms of the energy sphere. So, it almost kind of reminds me of Pipe Maze minigame from Mario Party, the original game, for the Nintendo 64, except, well, it usually becomes, well, not so much random or anything like that, so at least I'm glad that's not random as far as I'm aware. So, anyways though, so let's go ahead and continue, and I think, relatively speaking, with the final two of those energy spheres, I think they are going to be somewhere at the very end of the level, specifically where it gets to a point where we might actually come across into ourselves into, I would say another portal dimension, which I think that could be, or another dimension as far as I like to say. Oh god, this always reminds me of, you know, that one particular level from the likes of, I would say in Sonic 06 Mark Speed sections or something, except it's in 2D segments from time to time. But, oh my god, the wind current is actually going to be blowing me away, or just simply blowing me forward a little bit too much. But, hey, at least it doesn't feel that much of a problematic, I feel like. And yeah, we've met again with that Monster Flame ever since in World 2, since we actually last time we see this specific super ability and stuff like that. And all we can do with it now is just we need to, well, burn some stuff, specifically with these little creepy scully looking objects. But the ones we need to save up for is the fact that there's going to be a broken ship or something like that, which we'll point it out whenever we continue progressing for that specific level. So, relatively speaking, we'll just have to go ahead and grab some more of those stars in case if we could able to potentially, and I timed that so badly, but we'll try that again. So yeah, hopefully we'll able to actually get those during time, so even then we could expect to see how this will turn out. So, and aside from everything else though, the next thing they actually did announce, although before I will mention more on that, yeah, because I'm pretty sure that, oh jeez, I did not notice these things can able to hurt me. Which I totally get that, and I think, that's not the section just yet, but hopefully we might actually come into one until then, and just not getting hit most of our time for this point right there. And let's go ahead and burn this next lot out, and after that, I think we might actually come across into ourselves into this little shipwrecked somewhere in here, and we need to do a timing thing because we need to take down that specific octopus that has been hiding on that specific ship. And once you've done so already, then the actual portal to another dimension actually appears. So yeah, it's not too complicated or anything like that. So, and yeah, it's gonna go back on to go all the way to the right mortality by able to actually just not getting, you know, crushed by that specific shifting wall over there. So yeah, it's not much else commented on that. So, oh dear me. Sorry, I do apologize for that specific awkward commentary for this point, guys, because I've just felt a little bit tired. Well, not necessarily like bored tired or anything like that, but because, well, at this point in time, there's the fact that I couldn't even sleep well last night just because I was expecting they actually going to be bring us anything new during new forms of Pokemon Direct for this, specifically for this year, but as I mentioned this before, I was a little bit disappointed. But hey, on the upside though is the fact that we got a new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game on its way. I think it actually gets its release date, and I think it's going to come out on, I would say, the 6th of March, which is, well, 3 days after the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake for the PlayStation 4. So it's naturally not that long or anything like that. And I think, you know, the demo of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is managed able to actually get its release on the demo just recently today. But I'll give my thoughts about it until whenever I get back onto more recording sessions on this, but not now though, because I think we are naturally we're in the halfway point in World 3 already. So, but then again though, most of the levels at this point in time gets a little bit longer, but until when we get to the point until likely in World 4 and World 5 potentially, we might actually do something slightly different, because then again, most of these levels now and then is actually going to get a little bit longer, so even then we can able to, you know, just trying to accept that. Alright, so I don't think we might actually come across into another set of portal dimensions from now on, because there might be still some more along the way, specifically in World 4, and especially noticeable with World 5 potentially. So anyways, let's go ahead and please get the one. I still always get 2 for every single of those goddamn goal mini games. I mean, jeez, I need to try again next time around though. I'm hoping, well, we've already done it at least once, specifically back in World 1, but for whatever reason, I just had a little bit of a bad timing skills with that specific goal minigame in mind. But I digress. But anyways, we got ourselves another copy ability room has now been accessed to, so even then we can at least able to actually go for there. But I think I'm actually going to be able to not worry about this right now, because obviously I looked up on the actual guides of any single of those energy spheres that I could able to find, so it won't be necessary to be all that hard to find them. So yeah, everything else will be come together at this point in time. So anywho though, yeah, that's about it when it comes to Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but at the same time, not really though, because then again, I haven't really got myself that much of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon experience ever since, during about almost a decade ago for this point right now. So, I really don't know if I'm actually going to be excited for it, or maybe just wait until when the official one is about to be up at some point. So, yeah, I suppose I should probably explain about the next thing they actually did announce with the Pokemon Direct. And yes, they did mention about the forms of Pokemon Home. And unfortunately, that Pokemon Sleep hasn't been shown up yet, which I have no idea why they just somehow skip over Sleep and then just jump straight to the point on Pokemon Home. And for what I've noticed something is the fact that, well, it's like the same thing as Pokemon Bank, except, well, it usually just managed to get revolved in with Nintendo Switch or something. So, then again, I don't know exactly how that works though, just because I've never actually, you know, become a huge Pokemon fanatic, as you already guys know. But anyways, in this room here, that we need to take on the forms of those giant enemies first by simply activating that bottom part of the switch. Now when you've done so already, wait until that specific trapdoor has been closed and stuff, and then we need to, well, pull down that little specific switch lever, and then that way you can able to find yourselves a key, and then just simply open up a door, and that's all there is to know. I think for the majority at this level, as you can see right there, this is going to be a lot of emphasis on swimming, because as you probably already know, World 3 is essentially just a tropical beach kind of level, or that particular world I should say, so not much else really much to say about this honestly though. It's actually somewhat easier, but again, as I mentioned this before, some of these levels until at this point until in the future parts throughout this Let's Play, sometimes you can either get longer, or especially noticeable gets a little bit tricky and difficult, unless if you're trying to able to find the majority of those energy spheres just from the start, so... But yeah, you most likely get the idea for that point, so anyways, let's get into the forms of the final thing, or actually I'll get into more on that later. For Pokemon Home, for the actual service department, it was actually going to be releasing and during at some point next month, so it won't be that long to able to actually just to find out what that specific thing can do. And I think I get the strong feeling about the fact that it might actually get us some sort of like a pay subscription or paid service or something like that, but then again, I'm pretty much unknown for that specific stuff though, really, to be honest with you, because then again, we don't know exactly what the Pokemon Home actually looks like to be just yet though, but then again, we'll find out during next month at some form or another. But anyways, and the final thing that the Pokemon Direct has just recently announced, and it's gonna be, well, most of these legendary Pokemons, you know, with Dialga and Palika from the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl games, as well as there is I would classify for saying like Regigigas or something, or any other Pokemons I can think of, but then again, I did not exactly know all of the actual Pokemon names, to be honest with you, but some exceptions, like I basically already know Celebi and Jirachi, Manaphy, and Shaman, as well as there was Victini, Deontay, and also Metawella, and all sorts of cars basically. So even then, no, it's just a matter of the amount of Pokemon they actually just managed to bring up to. I just simply do not know most of the names very well, I have to be honest. And also, by the way, the reason why that it has been quite a while since we actually did manage to able to get this thing up and going is that, well, once again, well, it's nothing to do with the microphone this time around though, luckily. It's more accurately, like, recently my laptop seems to go a little bit slow at this point, which even then, it's nothing to do with me or anything like that. Every time when I was doing a lot of commentaries when it comes to like long minute videos and stuff like that, and the amount of times the footage keeps on lagging, and also same applies for my commentary on my microphone, seems to able to actually just cut off for some reason, which luckily, as I mentioned this before already, that's nothing to do with the actual USB port itself. It's to be more accurate, the amount of lagginess that we're actually going to be run into, so... But I digress. So when you wait there for long period of time, then you get yourselves the, you know, the third energy sphere. And the fourth energy sphere, I think we might actually come across into ourselves the next item that we can able to hold up with, and that is the forms of the specific bomb. And if you're trying to run with it, as you can see, the bomb itself is actually growing a lot bigger. And basically, we need to run for it, because if you don't make it in time, well, the actual bomb explodes, and then we have to simply, we need to, well, just trying to skip, I suppose. Or, alternatively for you, you can able to actually retry it again. So, and obviously I screwed up right there, but that's fine, because I can just simply get on to the second section, which the first one is not so that much rewarding. It's just basically get yourselves some stars and that's it. Whilst in the second section right here, this is pretty much mandatory to able to do this, and that way you can get yourselves the, you know, the next energy sphere. So yeah, it's not too bad, especially noticeable it's not too difficult either. So at least even then, at least we managed to able to got that, I suppose. And I believe the fifth and the final energy sphere is actually going to be on this section. So even then, well, until later on though, that we might actually come towards one. Oh yeah, let's get into the forms of the main treatment of the forms of the final part for Pokemon Direct that's recently just happened. That appears to be there's going to be the expansion packs by the forms of the DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield. You know, kind of like the same thing for how it does it in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. They did manage to have DLC Pack 1 and DLC Pack 2. And as far as I'm aware, for I've seen the actual details, despite I'm not a huge fanatic of Pokemon, I have to be honest with you, as I said before. But basically, what happens is the fact that, basically, they actually managed to put up ourselves into the continuation parts throughout the main game itself. And I think they actually contains like 2 different DLC packs. There was one from the Isle of Armor, and another one which is the Crown Tender, which, as far as I'm aware, one of those DLC packs will be about to be releasing and during at some point in June 2020, which will be about time that for the Pokemon fans out there to able to see more on that in action and during at some point in E3 this year. So even then, we can expect to see more info on that. And as for the Crown Tender, it will be releasing until specifically by the end of the year. You know, it's kind of like the same method as, you know, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild DLCs and all that stuff, which is kind of a similar pattern from here. But, you know, you get the drill. Okay, quick error right there, because I got interrupted by somebody, but regardless of everything else though, we got one more level left in the forms of Onion Ocean, and that is of course the boss fight itself. And, that was it, basically. That's all I can really say about the forms of the Pokemon Direct for the first ever Direct of the entire year so far. Now, I will say, though, I'm actually have to be honest with you, I'm just a little bit too, disappointed by it. Well, it's nothing horrible or anything, it's just that, well, I just found it a little bit too, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves at that point, but anyways. Alright, so here we go with this next fight, as you can see right there, which appears to be Fatty Puffer, which basically is kind of like a Fatty Puff Fish kind of thing about it. So basically, we need to just simply keep on attacking him while doing so, and basically it's how to able to dodge his attacks and everything. So I would appreciate it if I was going to able to go for Spear on this fight though, but I accidentally choose the Ice form instead of the forms of Spear. So I thought to myself, I might as well able to take a risk, potentially speaking. So, but once you get to the halfway point, he actually grows a little bit too bigger, and also as a result, as you can clearly see, I'm almost going to get myself wrecked by any moment. In fact, I might actually come across into my, well, first ever death on this specific Let's Play department. So, but let's not let that happen, well, for just yet though, until specifically World 4, and probably towards at the end of the game, basically. So, I guess we'll just have to take it as a little bit too easy method, by simply able to, you know, just trying to keep on grabbing those star projectiles so that we can able to send them back right at him. And boom! We actually did manage to, well, kill him, or in this case, just managed to defeat him, while simply able to live by a little bit of health left, so kudos to that. And as you can see, we managed to restore the left wing this time. So we got the right wing, and now we got the left wing during the forms of that perspective methods. And of course, we can instantly go back in here instantaneously. So even then, it will place that left wing on that specific lower start cutter for this point right now. And I think that pretty much takes care of the wings themselves. So I think we got ourselves 2 ship parts left. So naturally speaking, that we almost basically done with this basically. So even then though, it's actually not that long, despite with the amount of levels that we might actually come across into. But then again, we'll point things out more onto it until specifically for every Tuesdays and Thursdays during our specific uploading schedule. So, with the left wing back in place, the wings have now finally complete. So, yeah, that's what I could really think of. So even then, though, we could, you know, try to able to actually just to gather some more energy spheres along the way. But hey, keep it up, Kirby. I believe in you. So yeah, before you're able to leave, let me just double check on any of these rooms that we can now able to access to, such as the forms of the copy ability room 1, as well as room 2 of the same thing, and also if we go down to the ladder, then we can now actually access to the forms of, well, what else? These two sub-games, the Ninja Daijo, as well as the forms of Scope Shot. So even then again, we'll show those off by the time for this Let's Play. So even then we can expect to do so. And also we can able to now unlock the actual whip challenge as well as the height jump challenge. But then again, we'll show off those during later on throughout the majority of this Let's Play and going. So yeah, you most likely get the idea for that solution. So anyways though, so that pretty much takes care of for this particular video for this point, guys. And the next world we're going to be hitting on to is White Wolfers? I think that's what the actual world is called. So join me until next Tuesday for more of Let's Play of Kirby's Adventure Wii / Kirby's Return to Dreamland. Is that we're going to be hit on to World 4, which is White Wolfers. So yeah, see you guys on Tuesday. Later, fellas.